Hello.
Welcome to Glory Goals. We don't normally say that on camera, but anyway. Yes, we're here for a Steamforge interview.
I'm Steve Margetson. I'm the lead developer of Godtear.
Yeah, and we're not at GGHQ. GG.
No,
what do we call it?
It's
GG Towers?
generally GGHQ, but it's just a loft. Like Batman has a cave, we just
We
have a loft.
That's where we do all of our filming. We've got a
I imagine Batman started with a loft as well.
But we've got a bit of ambience. We've got art.
We have got a little bit of ambience. We are here at the GG Masters. This is Friday evening.
22nd.
I would say evening, but okay.
Okay, Friday evening. We are here.
Just before the team tournament.
Just before the team tournament that Bryce is running.
And we've kindly got an interview with Steve about Godtear.
Yes, he's taking some time out of his busy schedule for gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To come and talk to us about Godtear.
Mid-dinner, we've interrupted. How was your dinner?
It was pretty good, yeah.
What did you go for? What did you go for in the end?
The loaded chicken strips, which were awesome.
This is the best Godtear content on YouTube.
If your meal reminded you of a champion, which one would it be?
Grimshala. Grimgut.
Sorry,
Grimgut.
Sorry, apologies.
So, some people will already have their Godtear stuff at the moment.
You lucky people. The boy had his delivered today, so we should have content on the channel very, very soon.
Mine will be
Awesome.
here.
I look forward to seeing it.
We can't wait.
Yeah, we really, really can't wait. I picked up, so Steve was generous enough to bring some copies with him.
Yep, so that they can demo some games throughout
So we can have a look at some demos over the weekend. I've looked at the models and oh my god, they have turned out better than I expected.
Yeah, Russ and his team have done an amazing job.
Yes.
Yeah, because we thought when we got the early access stuff, they were phenomenal.
Yes.
And then we were like, PVC ones will be alright, they'll be okay. And then we got them, we were like, wow.
The number of people I've been talking to who did early access and were like, I'm really sad I didn't back for the early access champions.
Yeah.
Yes. To be
I've got
honest,
Shale and Golan coming.
I've
Nice.
also ordered Shale and Golem. we only found out last night. I'm like, how much did you pledge? I'm like, this much. I'm like, did you get Shale and Golem?
I got Shale and
I've got Shale and Golem. So yeah, to be honest, not that I don't love the metal sculpts that we got in the early access. I think those two really spoke out to me as wow, look at these guys.
Yeah, so we've seen Finvar, Titus, Naya,
And Morrigan.
Morrigan.
Yeah.
One thing I mentioned earlier, like Finvar was one of the last champions that we unlocked.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in the starter set.
Yeah, so
was that always planned, or is that just you know what, this is a badass looking model, let's put him in the starter?
it's going back a while, but from what I recall, it was a case of we knew obviously we wanted to do at least one start set, and we were like, okay, what champions do we put in? And it was a case of, well, there'll be people that have early access models that won't really want to pick those up again, so it doesn't make sense to put early access models in start sets. So it's like, well, there needs to be some new champions, and then we kind of choose some that we thought would go together well, looked cool, and also the other thing was making sure that they weren't too complicated either.
Yeah, so do you think he balances really well with Titus, who's also in the same set?
Yes, yeah, I think a starting point of Titus and Finvar and Warband is really good. I've had a few people that they go, oh, Finvar's a bit lackluster, but that ultimate is incredible. Being able to just at one point in the game go, all my banners are somewhere else within 4. I've seen games just
It's
be
game,
one on
especially
that.
on a turn 3.
If you pull that
That's
out,
basically when you win the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, turn 3, or you're in for a bit of a grind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's good. So yeah, because we've both got an early access set.
Yeah.
And
You
again,
probably watched it initially. I think we don't know if we were the only people, but we'd done every time there was an update. And the thing
you were like pretty dedicated in terms of putting out new stuff and so on, and
every single update.
because that was kind of the more or less the start of your channel, wasn't it?
That was how we started. That's why
someone's watching
this
the start
is
of it.
not logo.
No, like this,
We're in our civvies today.
We're in our civvies today because Dippers and
Anatomical Day.
Anatomical Day. I'm like, which nicknames are you going for this time? They're running the Friday.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Obviously we're running along with Tom.
Yeah.
We're running Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, so you can kind of hang
We're
out.
playing
and spend
Let's
some
hang
time.
out today,
Awesome.
spend some time. But yeah, we both got early access, and I love the models. Like I love the sculpts, I love the things. And yeah, okay, I do like the some of the new PVC sculpts, like Rangosh. For me, I still prefer the metal one.
Yeah.
The only downside is
it takes up 3
it takes
hexes.
up it takes up 5 slots in your bot.
Yeah.
In your character. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
when you've got all of your early access models in one case, you're kind of like, not much else is going in there. So again, you've really kept the lovely sort of detail, the nice designs, but then obviously you got the lightness of PVC, which is
and
really, really
being
good.
pre-assembled is a big thing as well, because
Luke broke my Rangosh in half on the first recording.
Named him Half Gosh.
He was half Gosh from that point
He
on.
didn't even pin him, to be fair.
I was going to say,
Rich,
was it pinned? Because with metal models that size,
to be honest, I should have known that Luke Hamfist Smith would smash something.
My alchemists are currently for sale.
Are these the pieces of alchemist?
Nice segue into that.
Everything until they're sold. Because I've got my new residence, you see. It was really, really interesting. I don't think anyone else has done, the alpha testing.
Yes.
How much did the feedback, did you feel that sculpted the direction of the game, or was it more like a case of you knew what direction it was and you kind of wanted us to reaffirm your beliefs of the direction? Or?
So it's one of those where I would say the overall game itself kind of had a direction, and what early access allowed us to do was kind of, confirm some of the things that we were either happy with or we were a bit unsure about. I think Godtear would have ended up being a similar-ish game, but it's one of those where feedback is always good. Particularly on characters may have turned out a different way based on feedback. And I think particularly like testing just generally within Steamforge, we tend to have more of a direction of where we want to go, and testing is like often getting perspective on it. What works, what doesn't, are we going in the right direction? And sometimes there will be cases where that direction just doesn't work on a character, we have to rework. But you need that feedback, and it was useful to have that. And there was just a few things that you don't realise until you get it in front of people. Like for example, in the final game, all of the boons of whites are just icons. And that, I remember a discussion me and Alex had about, those icons needing names originally. And that's where, on those playtest cards originally said weaken. And I was 100% wrong on that. Because it should have just been icons from the beginning.
Because we was going, Sunder, which one's Sunder? Which one's that? We were like, I can't remember them. Like, swords. We need armor, dodge, damage, move.
And it's one of those where having a game out in public, you're demoing it to people, showing it at shows, you get to see the things that people struggle with. Is you go, oh well, they look at a card and go, oh, Sunder, what does that mean? And you go, okay, that probably needs to change. And that's where things like early access, and also aside from early access, the fact that we'd announced the game early and were showing it early meant that we could take it to conventions and get feedback. Because that's not normally a thing you would do. Is a lot of the time you work very much in an isolated sphere, and then you show it out to the world and see what people think rather than get names.
So because at the beginning it was a little bit clunky, I found, with the initial where you go, okay, you build up your dice pools, okay, so I'm doing that, then I'm adding your dodge dice and I'm taking that away, rather than I'm going to throw these, I'm going to beat this target number and done kind of thing, and it works a lot better.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the other thing as well, is just, I would say the main thing that early access gave us was just refining what was already there and determining a direction, and that was, largely done by Alex and DC at that point. My involvement, I've been involved in bits and pieces here and there, but my main involvement came towards the end of development, and you'll see a lot more of the stuff I had a much bigger hand in the post Kickstarter releases.
Which champion are you the most proud of?
What, of the original release?
Whatever you're able to tell us.
Whatever you're able to tell us.
So
we don't need to lose your job or anything.
So I think of the original group that's there. I think for me, so of that original 15, probably my favourite is either Wraith Marid or Sneaky Pete.
I love
I love
Wraith. Shale and Golem's my favourite one. It's mainly because Rich's favourite thing is he always brings Rodri. No, Rodri. So they just troll him by just going, I'm just going to reposition it. Oh, off you go.
I had a playtest game against Perkins recently where I played Rodri, and Perkins used Shale, and I did not have a great time because he was just like...
So you're playing with two champions at that point, you're like...
So
I was like,
Sorry, because most of your games, do you play 2 or 3 champions?
3.
Three's what we found.
It's one of those, you definitely can play with more or less, but we're definitely, when we're testing, targeting 3, because we find that that's where you get the kind of most interesting interplay of different things. Is 2 gives you that feel of the 3v3, but you get a lot more options in terms of the boons you bring and the blights you have and so on.
And you've got able to do your setup, able to do other little bits to wait your activations, whereas with the other one you've got 4 activations to wait in a hero.
Yeah, exactly.
We love it, so I really like that you've kind of kept with the 6 scenarios that went through the playtest. There's been a couple of tweaks throughout that they're really good, because I think, not an issue.
I think it was only Chaos that we didn't enjoy.
But then that's been changed completely.
So Chaos was definitely, I remember, I was involved around the time when Chaos changed, and Chaos was one of those that never really felt right for a while, because it had the shortened ladder, and I remember some playtest feedback I got, and I think the most accurate thing was someone said, it's not chaos, it's not chaotic, because you just know if I have a banner I win this turn. So it was. I'm fairly certain it was DC that came up with the crazy deployment, semicircle deployment.
That's really cool.
And as soon as he showed that to me, I was like, that's chaotic. That's chaotic. And then the placing the hex anywhere is pretty chaotic. So I think Chaos has really come out well, and within our testing, we got a lot more positive feedback on it once we changed it, and I'm really happy, because it is nice to have that round 6 of games that feel very different.
And that's what it is. I think not criticism of Guild. The thing with Guild Ball is it's one scenario.
Which some people
obviously
really love.
We love Guild Ball. We're huge Guild Ball fans.
You never know based on how many videos you make.
The fact that we're predominantly a Guild Ball channel, but we really like the fact there's different ones. In terms of organised play, is there much thought? I know with you, you've got your campaigns, which are more towards a narrative-driven thing. Have you got anything thoughts around your OPD for your organised play, for the more competitive tournament play?
So the thing with Godtear just generally is we're going to be supporting lots of different organised play. So for example, it's one of the things, and I think a lot of our fans from Guild Ball, they see organised play as just being tournaments. And organised play can actually be a whole lot more than that. It could be, your event at your local store and campaign event, and we want to support Godtear with more forms of organised play, so there will be campaign, launch events and things like that. There will be tournaments as well, and you can play Godtear competitively. There will be a tournament document, and it's just going to be one of those where we are not just going to solely push those, because that's predominantly where obviously the focus of Guild Ball is, and we want Godtear to appeal to a different group of people.
And that's what really sold it for us.
Rather than just being competitive.
It was at the SteamCon when Matt Hart done it, when he was talking about the campaign and the world building and everything like that. And I was sold on that by going, we might have this zone that's got this modified because of the battles that have happened here.
Exactly.
I was like, oh my god, I'm sold on this. So we went, were you in the Secret Squirrel thing? When we got the first look at it, and we're like, wow, this is so cool. And it was at that point we were like, yes, we're all in on this.
Definitely.
So, which combos have you found that are really good? Which are your favourite? So, not really good. Which are your favourite combos?
So I'm a big
power gaming already.
So I'm a big fan, and it's something that I'm a really big fan of taking Rattlebone and Morrigan, because it's one of those where those are two of the more finesse champions, but when you get them working, Morrigan is incredible when you can put any boon on her. She's one of the, once she gets that damage boon on her, she's one of the most damaging slayers in the game. And it takes a bit of work, but once you get there, it's awesome. And Rattlebone really facilitates that, and being able to move around both boons and whites is awesome. And then I like to just slot one other person in there as well. So I tend honestly to play more balanced lineups. I tend to play 3 different classes, because I just kind of like to play all aspects of the game. That's not the case for everyone in the office. Perkins, for example, will predominantly only play if it's red or yellow. Although I mentioned about Shale, that was a very recent thing. He picked up Shale and was like, these shapers are actually pretty good. It's you'd be missing out. You need to get in on shapers.
As a Mortician's player, we should love shapers.
Exactly. Now, to be fair, as a standard, I generally really like to have one Slayer, one Guardian, and then the others like a float.
I normally go Shaper, Guardian, and a Slayer. Maelstrom, I think.
Maelstrom I like.
I really like them, but if you're against the wrong lineup and they haven't really got.
Then they feel really hampered.
Maelstroms are a really interesting one because they're definitely during the development there's been kind of a back and forth of whether like how good are Maelstroms, and there are times when I'm like, you know, someone brings not many followers and it doesn't shape, Maelstroms don't feel that good. But then equally, I've seen games where I didn't take a Maelstrom and someone has flooded the board with followers.
You're like, damn.
And I'm just like,
when Rangosh comes and you're like,
So yeah, the thing about Maelstroms is that we definitely went back and forth of how good they were. And yeah, as I was saying, I've seen games where Maelstroms perhaps aren't as good because there aren't that many followers, and so you perhaps want a Maelstrom like Titus who can, you know, do some damage to your champions. But then I've equally seen games where the board gets flooded with followers and you go, I really wish I had a Maelstrom here because I don't want to be spending my high quality like Rangosh attacks or Lorsan attacks clearing out a 1 point follower.
See, this is it, sort of, because I look at it in the sense that you want a Guardian because obviously you're always going to want to plan us down, and there's always going to be champions to kill. So Slayers are, like, for me, Slayers always have slide.
And it's good as a deterrent for when they come and put their banners on.
Exactly. But then, like the third one, I generally go for like Wraith or another fast character who can go around and clear the banners if need be. Do you know what I mean? So
anything with jank, I like a bit of jank in my life.
Like Sneaky Pete has so much jank.
I love the way he moves. It's so good. Well, he's just like fast.
This is one of the things that's always really hard because of the early access is remembering what stuff happened during early access and what didn't. And Sneaky Pete is a really good one. I think it was when I was at Nova, and there was someone asking, so what's changed since early access? And I was like, well, Peter's gone to a 3-1. He was like, that happened during early access. I was like, oh yeah, so it did. And that's been the real difficult thing is kind of going from that open development to then closing off again to finish up the game. And like you say, there has been some changes, like the most notable ones being the changes to Chaos. Blackjaw, he went from a 3-3 down to a 3-2, but gained points of health.
He's hit Blackjaw's probably had a lot of the changes. Him and Shale and Golem seem to have Shale and Landslide. That's like, God, that was right at the beginning. Landslide. But they had so many, because you remember when you used to roll the dice and that's what blinds you used to get through?
Yeah, I remember that.
And Blackjaw went from like amazing to terrible to amazing to terrible. It's a real difficult one.
It's a tough one to balance by the sounds of it.
It's one of those as well, like, I remember when the very first version of Early Access came out because me and Bryce went to BonesCon, and that was the first time we'd shown off Godtear. Like literally, I think that Friday
I was there. I think I was there.
And we were playing the game and so on, showing it off to people, and Lorsan was just broken. Like so broken at that point. And the thing was that, and it was a real awkward one because you know you'd show the game to people and they go, "Cool, look, carry on playing." So we had like sense there for people to play, and then we got to the point of where someone would come up and they would go, "Do you know that Lorsan's a bit good?" And it's like, we'd noticed, we've had a lot of feedback about that. And it was one of those where like, it got to the point of where I think we ended up just going, okay, we're gonna like write on this card and change this, or just be like, play without Lorsan and so on, and things like that. But that's what happens in game development. You have these moments where you know characters are too strong, they're underpowered, and sometimes you get kind of close to the mark the first time. Other times you're wildly wrong in your first take.
This is it. So which would you say has changed the least?
Changed the least?
Because I think Rangosh has been pretty standard through a lot of it. He's had a couple of changes to his followers.
No, he's had quite a lot of the damage tweaks and stuff like that.
I remember the followers definitely being one of the things that kind of changed a lot with Rangosh.
But I think himself, he's generally kept the same couple of abilities.
I don't think he's changed that much, so he'd probably be on that. I'm trying to think who else. I feel like Blackjaw probably didn't change that much. I think one of the main things that did change on Blackjaw was kick. You used to be able to use against anyone.
And
I remember
that was far too good.
And he would just, boot Lorsan in the face.
I kill followers, but watch me. I'm gonna kill him. This is Jackass. Watch me kill this Slayer.
Yeah, and it was one of those where it's still it's still something I think about. Is whenever like I use that kick on a follower, I always think about the time when he used to just be the Lawson.
It used to be. It was like a 6-6 one.
Yeah, it's still 6-6. Which was also quite funny with it just being called kick and being this actually really bad.
Yeah, watch me set that hex of followers on fire, and I'm going to kick you in the shin.
Shale used to be really difficult to kill, weren't he? He's got the old man on the rock.
He was
just
always
with
so
much dodge.
He went through so many games where he just wouldn't
like,
dodge.
just kill him. Like, he's got so, it was like he was maybe
I'm standing on
4 dodge at one point.
I'm standing on this rock.
Yeah,
You ain't going to hit me.
I think there was a point as well where like landslide could take wounds for him.
Yeah, that was that as well. Yeah, that was that as well.
Just stood there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you kill my follow, cool. I'll bring him back.
I think that's like the other thing as well is, and you definitely saw it during early access, was kind of experimenting and seeing what did and didn't work.
Yeah.
Because different game systems require different things.
Yeah.
So just because it works in Guild Ball and is acceptable in Guild Ball doesn't mean it will translate well to Godtear.
Yeah,
you know, healing is another good example. Is you'll notice there's not a whole lot of healing in Godtear.
Yeah, because that was when we were doing like, right, how'd you heal?
We were like,
But
surely
heal.
someone should have an item to heal. You know,
Yeah.
like, no. But then to be fair, like Rodri we always found was really hard to kill just because of the sheer amount of armour that him and his mates had. So obviously you've done things to sort of
It's
stop
half
that.
tusk is the only one who can heal, isn't
Half
it?
tusk, I think he's going to regenerate. Yeah, this is it. But we remember right at the start, like Rodri was like, you just
want to die.
Yeah.
If you had Shale and Rodri, you're like, well, I'll put my Slayer back in the box.
Yeah.
Yep, my Slayer can run around.
No, his last Sally was just going to do 1 damage every turn. I'm going to hit you and just take it.
I'll get through eventually. As long as this game goes on for 7 turns.
Rodri, you've got a dodge of nothing, right? Shoot you for 1. Let's go.
Legendary, have a couple more.
Yeah.
That was when you used to put your 3 damage at one point for a legendary or something like that.
Probably.
Yeah, last Santa dodge.
That was just a flat 3 damage, See, I'll keep going through 2 minds of that, I'm going to do my legendary, it's static damage, but you know, you always get a little something nice as well, because obviously Rangosh had his 2 damage and move and stuff like that, so it's one of those that sort of, when you think about how much health a champion has, you're like, okay, Lawson, I'm going to do 3 flat damage, Rangosh, I'm going to do 2 flat damage, I'm part of the way there already, do you know what I mean?
Especially against certain people, like Sneaky Pete is a really good example where having only the 5 health, or Titus, only having 5 health is, you know, doing 2...
Lawson at one point was made of glass, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
she had very high dodge.
I think it was something like 5 dodge, 1 armor and 5 health or 4 health or something.
Where she's gone down to, I think she's 416.
Still keeps her alive.
So campaign play, going on about that. Then you've released some information around the campaign. So is there anything else you can add about than what's currently been released around it?
Yes, so the campaign itself is essentially a series of linked games, and there's kind of 2 different things that make campaign games different. So the first thing is that when you play a campaign game, you'll be paired up at a location, and that location will have a special rule, and these special rules change during the rounds of the campaign. So, for example, these tend to be things that will, you know, they tend to be very simple and but have big impacts. So they might be, for example, the one that I always go to because it's a really simple one to remember is followers can enter objective hexes. And things like that essentially exist to make you think about Godtear a bit differently, and also to, in some ways, kind of change the power dynamics of the game. Is, you know, if you have a scenario rule where you can place banners as a bonus action, is all of a sudden that is a very different game.
Yes, quite a strong ability there.
And there's also, if I remember correctly, there is one where at the end of your turn, all follower units fully recruit.
No.
Wow. That's super.
And that's on both sides.
So
it's one of those where those things make you think about the game differently.
But I guess it also opens it up that no 2 campaigns are going to be the same.
Yes, and that's the thing, is that each campaign will be focused around a location and will have different special rules. Then kind of the additional layer you have on top of that is, after every game you will earn a number of Godtear based on how well you did. And they are slightly randomized, so if you won a game and you earned more points, you are more likely to get more Godtears than if you lost a game. But there is still the potential that someone that lost a game may still get loads of Godtears. So you've got kind of a bit of rubber banding there.
Nice.
And the way that these are then spent is amongst your warband, you choose what characters you're going to spend them on, and you have 2 different skill trees, and you choose which side you're going to use for this campaign, and you then spend them to add new things to your character. So you can, your first upgrade is always a stat change, your second one is an alteration to an existing ability, and then your third one is a completely new ability.
Right. It's nice. I like the sound of that.
And it's one of those that we've themed those abilities around the Godtears themselves. So for example, there is a Wraithmorid of Life. So he will have abilities that tie to that, or a Rangosh of Chaos that focuses more about moving people around.
Nice.
So you should be able to kind of, when you look at the 2 skill trees, you'll look at them and go, oh, I have the choice of Chaos and Life, and I can kind of see the direction that this character is going to be in. But because you're taking these and you're choosing where you're going to spend them, you have to think, do I want to just level up, a Rangosh to full and have, this amazing godlike Rangosh, or do I want to spread them out?
Between your different champions as well.
This is it, because if you neglect the other 2,
you
kind of like, wow, though.
I really like that.
So then you've got to Rangosh on the opposite side, just go.
And it's one of those, it's really interesting to see the, different,
people's perspectives.
People's perspectives on it. And there are also, depending on what characters you play, that may change, because I know, for example, with Perkins, one of Grimgut's side, and I can't remember, I think it's Grimgut of Life, the new spew becomes a bonus action, which is huge.
That is massive.
So Perkins is just like, Grimgut in campaign is awesome, and is always like, that's the thing I want. I'm not that bothered about getting anything else, but I always want to try and get that. So it depends definitely on the character you want to play.
So so you're 15 champions at launch.
Each with 2 skill trees.
Each with 2 skill trees each. And then we worked out how many permutations it was of 3 champion things. It's
too many.
Then with a double...
that's what I'm saying with the double trees. It's
lots of
really...
There are a lot of different options there, and it's one of those as well where new campaign kits will be looking at doing different locations. And the other thing is that we're going to wait and see as well kind of what the feedback is from people. Is if we kind of see what they latch onto, what they enjoy, because like I said, you're never 100% sure that the thing you're doing is going to be received well. So it's going to be a case of seeing how the public feeds are, kind of what they like, what they don't like, and then kind of similar to how Guild Ball has gone, looking to iterate in future campaign packs.
So is each campaign pack, is it going to have like a story associated with it, some plot?
So essentially the story on these cards is kind of generic and kind of evocative, if you get me. So rather than being like, oh, your characters are here for this reason, it's kind of setting the scene to allow you to, tell your stories from that. So the campaign that came with the Kickstarter is focused around the Broken Plains where Rangosh is from. So it's one of those where one of those cards is an oasis, and then one of them is a desert, and one of them is like I believe it's like an ancient temple, if I remember correctly. So it's one of those where, you start in the desert, and then based on whether you win or lose, you might go to the oasis. And that's very clearly, even though it's not telling you, oh, you were in the desert and you found an oasis, there's an element there of being able to tell a story from that. Because you go, oh, well, I was in a desert, I'm now in an oasis, so I'm here, and then I've encountered something else, and things like that. So it's kind of...
Sounds really good.
Because then you're replaying it, because if it's the same story every time, you just...
Nice. Sounds good. Sounds good. Right, it is 5:10.
Yes.
So it's likely that we need to go down to the team tournament.
Yep. Well, thank you for having me.
Can I just ask one more thing? No, it's so I love all the fluff associated with all the champion backgrounds and everything like that. Is that going to be in with the sets, or is that on the blog, or is that accessible?
It's one of those where there is like very limited fluff in the actual rulebooks themselves, because we wanted to keep them very short and streamlined, and it's one of those where like fluff within, like background within rulebooks is both the positive and the negative,
Yeah.
is that you've got to kind of find a way to weave it in a way that makes sense. Because I remember some of the early Guild Ball books where you would have rules and then a bit of a background and so on. And it's one of those where there will be definitely background for the game. I don't know how that's going to be deployed.
It's mainly because
really
the way that Matt sold it and all the sharing stories and everything. I just fell in love with the world and everything.
As with Guild Ball, I kind of like you receive snippets of story over a couple of weeks. You can feel it develop and then you go from there. I really like how that's deployed. So if they did the same sort of thing for Godtear,
but I get what you're saying about the rulebooks, because as much as I love the Guild Ball rulebooks, I loved it. When we got it, I was like, oh, you read the story.
This is
Find out and flip Mr. Skull.
Hey, Rich. You always miss his goal. It's not a new thing. But no, it's kind of like the vogue at the minute for rule books to become a lot more condensed. Because if you look at like the 40k rule book and things like that, they've become a lot more streamlined. Your rules are over so many pages.
And I think that's one of those where, because like people want rule books to be easily referenceable, and rule books by and large tend to be things that once you're good at a game, you don't bring it as much, but as you're learning a game, you're going to be diving into that rulebook relatively, frequently to just check things and so on. And it's one of those that the smaller that can be in terms of bringing that along, and it's also making it kind of less intimidating for people because
you get a big hug.
And even if you tell someone, it's like, well, only like 75% of that is actually. No, sorry, 25%.
I was going to say 75%, that's quite a lot. I came here to play, not to read.
Only 25% of it is actually rules, because people will still look at that big book and be intimidated.
75% you get into infinity territory.
But thank you so much for
Yes, no problem. Thank you for having me on.
We're probably going to be, we'll be running Godtear events.
Of course we are.
I look forward to coming to them, and I also look forward to seeing what content you put out, because you did a lot of early access stuff, so look forward to seeing what you think of the full game.
Our custom board's nearly ready as well.
Yeah, I've seen
the second one's the right size.
I was really tempted to post and say, actually the board is like 2x14.
Please don't tell Dave that now.
You should have watched Dave explode at that. They've changed the board!
They've got to the bloody board, I spent ages making this custom. And then Alex said something at the keynote, thank you to all the people who made boards the right size. But anyway, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll have some Godtear content soon.
Catch you on the next episode. Bye.
Catch you later.